What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Courtside TV, and this is episode 3 of our NBA talk. This week, we're going to start out by talking about the trades that actually did happen at the trade deadline last Thursday. Then we're going to kind of transition into All-Star Weekend, which is coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about the different contests and challenges that are going on, who we think is going to win those, and just some general talk about that. So, starting out with the trade news, we had some major trades happen in the East. Specifically, I think we can both agree the East got a lot better. And the first one is Marc Gasol was traded to the Toronto Raptors. I believe they gave up Jonas Valanciunas and... You know who else? I think they gave up some picks and Jonas Valanciunas, maybe another player, I can't remember exactly. But the Raptors acquired Marc Gasol, which gives them an upgrade at the center position. And obviously they want to win now with Kawhi because they're not sure if they're going to have him long term. So Marc Gasol going to the Raptors is a big upgrade for them. They're already one of the favorites in the East, and they just got better. So Noah, what do you think about that trade?
So I saw the statistic that said Marc Gasol is the league leader in touches from the elbow, and the Toronto Raptors are 28th in the league at touches from the elbow. So throwing him into just adds another dimension to their offense, where they already have guys like Kawhi Leonard, obviously, Kyle Lowry, all-stars, and then Pascal Siakam was basically a borderline all-star. I think they've got a lot of different layers to their offense that Marc Gasol just adds a whole nother dimension, which, as credible as they are already defensively, I think now offensively they're top tier in the league as well.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten to watch any of the Raptors yet. I don't know if you have, but haven't been able to see how he plays with them. I've seen a little bit of highlights, but he's really going to stretch the floor more than Valanciunas did for them. Going to be able to hit the three and the mid ranges when he needs to. And yeah, so just overall, a pretty solid upgrade for the Raptors at the big man spot.
And then another thing along with that is now they have two former defensive players in the year on their team, because Gasol also was a defensive player of the year.
Yeah, so adding Gasol with a front court of like Kawhi and a Pascal Siakam, that team's looking really, really, really good. And they were able to keep Kyle Lowry. That's a big thing too. They didn't have to trade him to give up Marc Gasol, which is huge because that's their point guard. That's their leader kind of. Moving on, the next team, and I'm going to leave the 76ers for last, but the next team we're going to talk about is the Bucks. Initially they traded Thon Maker to the Pistons to get Stanley Johnson. Then they packaged Stanley Johnson with another player and traded them to the Pelicans to pick up Nikola Mirotic, which is a good pickup for the Bucks. They get another upgrade, just like the Raptors got an upgrade. They get a stretch four in Mirotic. He's a solid player all around, and just like the Raptors, the Bucks just get a little better. I mean, the East is starting to get a lot better with these trades now, and so what do you think about that trade?
I think that the Bucks definitely accomplished their goal, because what they need to do in order to win is put shooters around Giannis, because as dominant as a player he is in the post, I think he's gotten better at his shooting still, but he's not a legitimate three-point threat right now. So if they, he's still an incredible post player for a guy that can ball handle. So if you have him in the post and you just have four shooters spread out around the arc, you can't necessarily double team him because that's basically an easy 3 points every time. I think that they're going to have some really dangerous but also really tall lineups.
Yeah.
That they're going to be able to make now with Mirotic.
Yeah, and when Noah's talking about the shooting, I mean, Chris Middleton's their best shooter, definitely their best shooter. I mean, Bledsoe can hit some shots. Brook Lopez can step out and hit some shots sometimes, but Malcolm Brogdon. But adding Mirotic really adds another, big man who can stretch the floor for them, which will create problems, because if the Bucks can get a big man like Mirotic and Lopez to spread bigs out on the other team and leave the lane open for Giannis is going to have a field day and no one's going to be able to stop him. So that's big for them. Then moving on to probably the biggest trade of the entire trade deadline week we had was Tobias Harris to the 76ers. Now, he was on the Clippers, obviously, who were 8th in the West, still are, I believe, and they decided to go ahead and sell with Tobias Harris, trade him to the 76ers. The 76ers had to give up Landry Shamet, pretty good young player, Wilson Chandler, who's a solid player, and then a few draft picks. So obviously, just like the Raptors and Bucks, the 76ers want to win now. And adding Tobias Harris adds a fourth all-star caliber player to that team. Embiid and Simmons were all-stars this year. Jimmy Butler's a borderline, obviously. He's been all-star before. And Tobias Harris was a borderline all-star this year. And he's just been getting better the last few years. So that 76ers team is very scary, and that is the one team I actually have watched since the trade deadline. Being a big LeBron fan, I watched the Lakers and 76ers a few days ago, and that game was ridiculous. The 76ers pretty much couldn't miss. They ended up scoring 147 points in regulation. I know there's been a lot of high-scoring games this season in the NBA, but they were fun to watch, even though they were killing LeBron and the Lakers. It was still fun to watch because that team is very, very dangerous now.
Yeah, I think I think they would always talk about how the Celtics were the deepest team in the East, and as talent-wise, they probably still are. But now the 76ers have probably the best starting lineup in the East. Like you said, 4 potential All-Stars, and then J.J. Redick, guy who's always underrated. But then off the bench, they still have they acquired Boban Marjanovic, 7'4" freak. So they've got plenty of talent. T.J. McConnell's a former starter for them. They've got guys off the bench that can really make a difference in the game, as well as if they can just continue to share the ball the way they did against the Lakers. That, the offense definitely statistically was incredible. So I think if they continue to do that, then they could be, definitely make a run and be really dangerous in the East.
Yeah. So there's a couple other smaller trades in the East. Obviously, Markelle Fultz went to the Magic from the 76ers. Some smaller trades like that. But those 3 teams really made the big moves, and they've been the favorites in the East already, along with the Celtics, those 4 teams. The Celtics may acquire Enes Kanter. That's still to be determined. Be a good pickup for them, but Raptors, 76ers, Bucks, and Celtics are the 4 big teams in the East that really have a shot. And after all these trades, I personally think the 76ers are now the favorite and the team to beat, just because with Tobias Harris that's a huge get for them. And I think the 76ers are the team to beat in the East right now. What do you think?
I still think it's Toronto. I don't know. I think they're number 2 in the East right now. But at the end of the day, Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the East. And he's already proven he can win a championship. I think aside from Kyrie, he might be one of, if not the only one to have been to the finals, let alone win it.
Right.
Former finals MVP. A lot of talent around him. Now he's got Marc Gasol there too. I think as he gets more comfortable in the offense, will be even more dominant. And I just think that they're the most talented team.
Okay. Yeah, so like we said, the East got a lot better. The West teams didn't make a ton of big moves. Obviously, those teams at the top, like the Warriors and the Nuggets, they're not really going to risk a whole lot because they've already got it going on, really. And I mean, these East teams had it going too, but these moves for them were high reward and low risk, and they want to win now, so that's what they did, or that's what they're trying to do. With these trades, and like I said, the Warriors, it's not like they're going to try to acquire a 5th or 6th star player because they don't really want to risk giving up assets, picks, young players that they have right now. So that is pretty much all. Is there any other trades that you wanted to talk about in particular?
Just Jeremy Lin's buyout and him going to Toronto. Okay. I think that gives, because when I watched him, because he's been in Atlanta, I watched him a lot this season. He's been really effective, and I think being a backup to Kyle Lowry, that'll be really good for them. Yeah,
that's good. I forgot to mention that as well, because I'm not sure Van Vliet was Lowry's backup, but he was one of their backup guards. So adding Jeremy Lin. So after Kyle Lowry and who's the 2? Danny Green, right? So after Kyle Lowry and Danny Green, you got Jeremy Lin and Fred Van Vliet, who's been a really good player. So they're getting deep in the backcourt as well. So Toronto is a very scary team as well. Like we said, the West, pretty much the same. The Lakers made a few moves that, have yet to really play out. We don't know how those are going to turn out. But I think that's pretty much it for Trade Talk, unless you got anything else. No? All right, so moving on to All-Star Weekend. Today is Tuesday, February 12th, and All-Star Weekend, I believe, begins Friday night. Mm-hmm. This Friday night, which will be the 15th of February and goes obviously through the weekend. So we're going to start, I think we're going to start with the Rising Stars game. We've got Team US versus Team World. 2 pretty good rosters. I don't know if we have it up right now, but yeah, so for Team US, we've got Jared Allen, Marvin Bagley III, Lonzo Ball, who's injured, John Collins, De'Aaron Fox, Jaren Jackson Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Trae Young, and Kevin Knox is going to replace Lonzo Ball. And then Team World
would be OG Anunoby, DeAndre Ayton, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Rodions Kuruc.
Not sure who that is.
Yeah, Lauri Markkanen, Josh Okogie, Cedi Osman, and Ben Simmons.
Yeah, so 2 pretty solid rosters and full of players who are starting to take over the league at the moment. I'm going to say Team US is going to win. We're going to give our prediction and who we think will win MVP. I'm going to say Team US is going to win the game. This was really tough for me to pick. I thought both teams were really good. I'm going to say Team US wins, and my MVP is going to be Kyle Kuzma. So I'm sure most of you know Kyle Kuzma can score the ball. He's arguably the best scorer on the Lakers outside of LeBron. And I think in a more of a pickup style game that's not as serious, I think he's just going to be on fire, can't miss. So I'm going to say Team US wins and Kyle Kuzma wins MVP.
So I know Team World dominated this game last year, I want to say. But I actually went with Team US too. My MVP is Trae Young for the same reason. Over the course of the season, he hasn't really shot the ball the way he did in college, like at that same rate. College, he was pulling up over 3 people from half court. And the NBA has been really attacking the basket and getting his team involved. I think him and John Collins being on the same team together, they already have incredible chemistry. I think there's going to be some really exciting lobs in a game where there's not much defense played. And then also, I think, Trae Young's going to have the green light. He's just going to be pulling shots the way he did before. And I think with no real consequences, because it is just a game, like a pickup game, basically, he's just going to pull threes, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, so that is Friday night. That's the first night of the All-Star Weekend. That goes along with like the celebrity game and some other fun, little games like that. Then moving on to Saturday night, which is the big night, all the events minus the All-Star game itself. We've got the skills challenge, the three-point challenge, and the dunk contest. Those are the 3 challenges we're going to pick our winners for. Starting with the skills challenge, I'll pull up the roster here. It's a pretty solid roster. We've got it right here. Which one's skills challenge? So we've got Mike Conley, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Kyle Kuzma, Trae Young, and Nikola Vucevic. I picked De'Aaron Fox, and there's one reason I picked De'Aaron Fox, and that's one word: speed. De'Aaron Fox is no doubt the fastest player in that group, and I think speed, obviously you got to be able to hit a shot because you need to make the layup, you need to make the three-pointer, make the passes. He's a point guard, so I think he can make the passes that he's going to need to make here. It's kind of funny that we're like analyzing a skills challenge like this, but I'm going to say De'Aaron Fox is the winner just because how fast he is.
I think that's a great point. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to do really well, but again, probably a slight amount of bias here, but I have Trae Young winning this. The amount I've watched him this year and the way he passes the ball, his handle's tight, I think that he's going to, when it's the actual parts where he's having to go around the cones and make the pass into the thing, he's going to do that really smooth, really clean. And then, 3, he can obviously knock that down. I think there's a couple guys, I think Doncic is going to be really scary in this as well. And then also, he might not be the fastest out there, but Jokic is definitely going to be, just the way he can pass too. I think he's going to be effective down there too.
Right, so that's the skills challenge. Moving on, the three-point contest. This challenge is loaded. I don't remember being this many people normally, but we've got Devin Booker, both Curry brothers, Seth and Steph, Danny Green, Joe Harris, Buddy Hield, Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, Kemba Walker, and Dirk Nowitzki. I think they just put Dirk in there just, because he's retiring, and same with the All-Star game. This is a loaded three-point contest. All these guys can shoot well, and this was really tough to pick as well. I'm going with Damian Lillard in this one. I think Damian Lillard, he hasn't won a three-point contest. I know he's been in a few. He hasn't won one. So I think Lillard's going to win the three-point contest.
I've got Danny Green winning this one, simply because Danny Green, every 3 he takes is not off the dribble. It's just catch and shoot. If it was off the dribble, Steph Curry would probably win it every time. But since it's just catch and shoot threes, I think that he's the most effective of this group as far as just catch and shoot.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I believe last year Devin Booker won it. So this, you really never know who's going to win these. Steph Curry has won one three-point contest, which is surprising because obviously I don't think anyone would debate he's the best three-point shooter in the NBA right now and the best of all time as well. And he's won it once. So it doesn't necessarily always, it's not necessarily always the best shooter wins it because all these guys are incredible shooters. And really, it's just a different rhythm than they're normally to in the game. Obviously, they have to pick the ball off the rack, which is different than what they do in a game. They might be catching it or off the dribble. So you really never know with the three-point challenge, but it's really fun to watch because all these guys are marksmen. I got Damian Lillard. Noah has Danny Green. All right, so moving on, the last event of the night, the one most people enjoy the most, There's been some years, some down years. This year, the slam dunk contest, we have 4 participants. It's Dennis Smith Jr., Miles Bridges, Hamidou Diallo, I know he's known by Cheikh Diallo as well, and John Collins. So this one, I think all these were tough to pick. All these guys are really, really good dunkers. I watched Miles Bridges in college. Obviously, John Collins, I've seen a lot of him because we live in Georgia, so I see Hawks highlights quite a bit. Dennis Smith Jr., I know he's been a great dunker since he was at NC State, I believe. I watched him in college too. And Cheikh Diallo, I believe he played at Kansas. Didn't watch him a ton. But in this contest, it hurts me to do it, but I am going with the Spartan, Miles Bridges. I'm going to pick Miles Bridges in this contest. He's just absurd, and I know some people may argue he's more power than anything else, but he's just got incredible leaping ability, and I think he'll be able to do stuff kind of like Zion Williamson does. And Miles Bridges is he's an incredible dunker, so got to give credit where it's due, even though he's a Michigan State Spartan, but I'm going Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I think Dennis Smith was in it last year. I don't remember who won, but I know he had at least one dunk that was.
I believe
50.
Donovan Mitchell won it.
Yeah,
year.
It was, and but I think he had at least one dunk where it was a 50. So he knows what he's doing, but that also makes it harder for him because he's got to come back and be original. But again, definitely hometown bias. I've got John Collins winning this. I've seen him really stretch back and really get up for some incredible dunks, but a lot of his are just power dunks, like you said, similar to Miles Bridges. But I think he has the athletic ability to really get up and be able to do some tricks. So I'm expecting him to at least bring, hopefully, a couple of things can come home to Atlanta, considering we don't have any actual All-Stars, but hopefully he can bring this one home. I think he's got some unique ideas.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing about judging these contests. Like I said with the three-point contest, it's not normal for these guys to get a ball off a rack and shoot it. When they're practicing in the gym or at their facilities, they have trainers passing them the ball and stuff. So it's different scenario. Same with the dunk contest. They have all the time in the world to just kind of, well, not all the time in the world, but they don't have to rush a dunk or don't have to worry about getting the points. They need to make the dunk, but they want it to be flashy. So it's a different scenario, and some of these guys, we don't know if they have that super finesse stuff. Like with Miles Bridges and John Collins, we know they've got the power, but can they do the finesse stuff, the 360s between the legs? I'm sure they can, but we've yet to see it in real games. That's why the dunk contest is fun to watch. So that is Saturday night.
I think along with that, it was kind of cool how they got Dirk in the three-point shootout. It would be nice if they got Vince Carter and Dwayne Wade in the dunk contest, but maybe next year.
And then, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up with Sunday night, the All-Star game. Obviously, Team Giannis and Team LeBron, they have been drafted. We won't read out the entire rosters, but they have that. I believe you can just YouTube the draft. It's like 10 minutes. You can watch, see who picked who. I think everyone agrees that Team LeBron is quite a bit better. LeBron drafted a lot better. That's the future GM in him, honestly, future owner in him, whatever he's going to be after he retires. So I'm going to go Team LeBron. Easy.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick against LeBron's team. I know that he made that trade for Ben Simmons, which kind of seemed to even out the rosters a little bit. But I'll go Team Giannis just for the sake of the argument.
Okay.
I think he drafted, I think he did get Chris Middleton with the first reserve pick over guys like Anthony Davis, which was him favoring his teammate, obviously. But I think that they've got a couple guys, it's their first time, got something to prove. As long as they're up to the challenge on the big stage, I think that they'll show well just to prove that they belong. And I think D'Angelo Russell, probably a lot of people are skeptical about him making the game. I think that he'll have something to prove about, he does belong there, and that they shouldn't have traded him and made room for Lonzo Ball, which was a long time ago, but
yes, it was
probably still some bad feelings about that.
Yeah, so that wraps up. Do we want to say MVPs for that game as well?
We did that last time.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said Damian Lillard.
All right, that's right. So that wraps up All-Star Weekend. So that's coming up, obviously, just a few days away. Trade deadline is over, so pretty much the rosters right now are pretty much set for the rest of the year, unless guys sign free agents, guys on the buyout market, stuff like that. Pretty much set. It's going to be a pretty interesting finish to the season. There's a lot of teams like the Lakers fighting to get in that 8th spot. So as the playoffs get closer, we'll kind of talk more about that. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode, unless you've got anything else. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. We'll see you next week. Peace.
See you guys.